Hi there, good evening, folks. Thank you very much for coming along to join this webinar. It's literally just clicked over to 6 o'clock, and we can see that we've got a few people joining us, but I would like to just wait a minute or two before we actually start. So yeah, if you just be patient with us for a minute or so, and we'll start at 2 minutes past. We're putting this recording online, so if you're watching it after the event, you can just move forward a minute or so. We're just waiting for a few more people to join. I can see some more people joining as we speak, so we'll just wait for until 2 minutes past. We'll be starting very soon. For those of you who've literally just joined, just wait until 2 minutes past, and I think actually that's clicked over. So thank you very much for joining. We're here this evening to talk about the Enfield Town to Ponders End Station walking and cycling route, and it's the 23rd of June 2023. So thanks for joining us. If we move to the next slide, these are the things that we're going to cover this evening. So we'll do a welcome and a little bit of housekeeping. We'll then talk a bit more generally about the Journeys in Place programme and do a short introduction to that. I'll then hand over to Carlo, my colleague, who's going to talk you through an overview of the route. And then I think my colleague Liz will talk a little bit about the comms and engagement for the project. We'll then Carlo will cover next steps, and then we'll go into a question and answer section after that. So hopefully that will work nicely. If we go to the next slide, I'll just do some bits of housekeeping first. So we've got a question and answer function as part of this webinar. Hopefully, maybe some of you have been to one of these before, so you can post your questions and we'll be answering those towards the end of the presentation, as I've said. If you've got questions and comments, if you could, it's helpful for us if you're able to split those up in different posts, and equally, if you've got a series of questions, if you throw one question in and send it, and then another one, and so on, it just helps us in the background sort out the questions from the comments and get those a little bit more organised. This webinar will go live on the project page at some stage, so that other people can watch it. And if you're watching it after the event, then it's a resource for the duration of the project. And although we won't be publishing the Q&As that we've received through, or the comments received through this evening, they'll all form part of the information that we review, and we will be looking to then update and review the FAQs on the project page. So if we're getting asked questions tonight, we can update them on the project page, because if it's relevant to you, they may well be relevant to others. And of course, just a reminder that this is very early engagement, and we'll talk a little bit about that more shortly. But please do continue to add your comments to the online map as well. That's really helpful, and it also means other people can see your comments as well. I think we've already had a good number of those. So hopefully that bit of housekeeping is okay with everybody. Before we should move on, I should probably just introduce myself, and colleagues will introduce themselves as and when they come on. But my name's Richard Easton. I'm the Journeys and Places Programme Director, and this project, along with a number of others, falls under my remit. If we go to the next slide, I can perhaps talk a little bit about the programme. So there are a number of reasons for the Journeys in Place programme. We have been called previously Healthy Streets, and Healthy Streets is very much still part of what we do, and taking a Healthy Streets approach to projects is still completely embedded within the way that we do our projects. But Healthy Streets is really a general policy name for interventions that happen across London, and we thought it would be useful to bring together a more local identity for the work that we're doing. And really, these are the reasons why we exist, if you like. These are the reasons why we're trying to take forward this program. I think everyone, well, the majority of people now are clear about the seriousness of the climate emergency and the imperative to really think about how we travel as part of our response to that. Air quality is something that impacts us all, and the air quality in London, there's more we can do to improve that, and how we move around influences that. So certainly in Enfield, carbon emissions from transport is one of the sort of biggest contributors to overall carbon that the borough produces, and that has that knock-on impact on air quality. And of course, just physical activity is important for us all, for our own health and well-being, and then the ongoing impact that poor physical health has on the National Health Service, and the strains and the pressures that service is put under. So enabling more people to be physically active each day is an important part of our project, and doing that in a way that's socially just and that's equitable as well, and considering issues of accessibility as well in our projects. And transport really does impact on social equity. We've seen over the last number of years a steady incline in the number of motor miles that are travelled. So our roads are getting increasingly congested. So really enabling people to move around in different ways for some journeys, particularly those shorter journeys, is something that we think the council thinks is very important, and has got policies in place to help take forward those kind of initiatives. And in doing so, I think we can make our streets and roads safer for everybody, whether people are walking, cycling, wheeling, or indeed driving, or using public transport. Safety is really at the heart of everything that we do. So that's a little bit about the programme and the sort of reasons why we're here, and the reasons why we're bringing forward the types of interventions that we're talking about this evening. If we go to the next slide, I can maybe just explain a little bit more about how the programme is structured. So there's really 4 key areas of activities. The first one is about delivering a walking and cycling network, and that's obviously the project that we're here tonight. The Enfield Town to Ponders End walking and cycling route falls within that particular area of projects, and that's really about creating a connected, joined up network. So it's not good enough to just have a series of disparate routes. They've all got to join up and connect up. Now that can't happen overnight, and over the last few years we've been slowly but surely building this network, and this route forms part of that. And I think Carlo will talk about some of the links to other projects that this project will enable. We're also doing work in town centres and how we improve the public realm. We've got a large project in Enfield Town that's actually was subject to some final engagement, or the last stage of the community engagement towards the end of last year, and also a series of projects in neighbourhoods. So this can be activities to reduce the speed and volume of traffic through residential areas, also projects such as school streets, and the provision of residential cycle hangers, activities such as that in neighbourhood areas. And then finally, work and activity around informing and inspiring the community more around active travel and the benefits that you can get for that. And we do that through a whole series of events such as cycle training and our inclusive cycling scheme, and the provision of services such as doctor bike mechanics and a range of other activities. Okay, so that's a little bit of context. I think I now pass over to Carlo, who can talk to you a little bit about this project more specifically.
Do. It's better. Good evening, everyone. I'm Carlo Romano, the project manager delivering the Enfield Town to Ponders End Station walking and cycling route. I'm very excited to be delivering this new piece of infrastructure that will have significant benefits to the community by providing you more options to travel to work, shops, school, and even to central London. The project will deliver a key active travel link which provide increased access for residents for Enfield. It will contribute towards a long-term increase in the levels of active travel by expanding the borough-wide network, The route will connect schools such as Bush Hill Park Primary School, providing a safer way for children to get to school. It also connects to a large number of key destinations via existing and proposed cycle routes, such as Ponders End Station, Enfield Overground Station, and a connection to the existing Cycleway 1 along the A1010, which continues all the way to Liverpool Street in central London. As well as the path itself, there are also possible improvements to junctions and road crossings to enable people to walk and cycle more safely. This may include new parallel pedestrian and cycle crossings on Southbury Road and Lincoln Road, and possible junction improvements at Willow Road and at the A10. The route will link into proposed Enfield Town to Broxbourne route, which has 2.9 kilometres of off-road shared path running alongside the New River. This will provide a great opportunity for leisurely walks or cycle trips, opening up the New River and providing opportunities to sit and relax by the river. The proposed Enfield Town to Ponders End Station walking and cycling route forms part of the Enfield Journeys and Places programme. The proposed route runs from Enfield Town at the junction of Willow Road with Southbury Road, and then along Eaton Road, Seaford Road, Fotheringham Road and Cross Road, where the route then enters Bush Hill Park and exits at Lincoln Road. It then continues along Lincoln Road, then south onto Main Avenue, where it crosses the A10. From here, the route proceeds along Lincoln Road and Derby Road, where it then crosses Ponders End High Street and into Ponders End Park. From the park, it continues along Tennyson Close, Napier Road, and finally onto Alma Road to Ponders End Station. The total length of the project route is approximately 3.8 kilometres. As you can see from the map, some possible design features may include improvements to the Southbury Road Willow Road junction, two-way cycle track through Bush Hill Park, one-way system or similar to Percival Road, Bertram Road and Clive Road, school street treatment to Bush Hill Park Primary School, upgrade to the A10 Lincoln Road junction, and a two-way cycle track on Lincoln Road. An Equalities Impact Assessment will be undertaken, which considers how the proposed project will have a positive or negative impact on each of these characteristics, and mitigating actions are then considered for any negative impacts. A typical example might be the consideration of footway widths, let's say. We will seek to provide rain gardens, which are planted landscaping features that stormwater runoff drains to. An example of a rain garden is shown in the top right-hand corner of the presentation. The rain garden collects stormwater, which then filters contaminants and reduces flooding. The rain gardens will be planted with a mix of grasses and wildflowers that are attractive to pollinators and night foraging insects. Where possible throughout the scheme, we will aim to provide a mixture of trees, low-level shrubs, grasses and evergreen hedgerows. The image here is of Angel Walk, a scheme which sympathetically introduced soft landscaping to separate the cycle track from the pedestrian path. Now, following the success of the Angel Walk, consideration was given to treating other parks in a similar vein, and initial design work has started on Bush Hill Park. I will now pass over to Liz from our communications team.
Thanks, Carlo. Hi everyone, my name's Liz Rhodes. I am the Journeys and Places Communications and Engagement Lead. So I work closely with our project managers on delivering project comms, as well as engagement activities, including the opportunity that's open at the moment, which I'll speak about in a moment. So in terms of communications and engagement for this project, we have a project page that is live on the Let's Talk Enfield website, and that link is shown on screen and has been included in letters that we've sent out to residents recently. And that is a really good hub of information with a number of key documents and frequently asked questions and other resources on there. I'll speak a bit more about that again in a moment. At the moment, we are running some engagement on the project to collect people's ideas for walking and cycling in the area, any issues that you think we should know about that might impact walking and cycling. So for example, that might be an area where the footway might be improved, or even an idea for more greenery or drop curbs or other things like that. Happy to hear other comments as well through the online map that is hosted on that project page. And I'll show you a picture of that on the next slide in a moment. That opportunity to share your comments with us is open until the 12th of February. So still a few weeks if you've got any other comments. We have had a number come through already, which is really great. So thank you if you've contributed to that map already. Like I said, we sent out a letter to residents and businesses to inform them of this opportunity and give them a bit of information about the project. We've been posting on social media through the council's channels, as well as the Journeys and Places Facebook and Twitter pages. And of course, we're hosting the webinar tonight, which, as Richard mentioned earlier, will be uploaded as a video to that project page later this week. We're also delivering a range of stakeholder engagement activities with partners, including Transport for London Emergency Services, who both will feed into this project as we move through to the design stages. The project page will also host updates throughout the course of the project, as well as any designs that come out of the project. We'll be sharing them ahead of further engagement with the community later this year and statutory consultation on the draft traffic order as we progress to that stage. Next slide, please. So this slide is an image of the online map that's open for your comments at the moment. You can see here that there's been a number of pins placed there already. So like I said, that's really great to see, and thanks to those who have already had a look at that and shared your ideas and issues with us already. Next slide, please. So just touching back on the project page, there's the link there again for you to have a look at. So we will be sharing more information on the design and the proposed plan for the project, as mentioned. It also hosts frequently asked questions, key dates for the project, information on upcoming opportunities such as this webinar and any future engagement activities. It will host the online activities, for example, the map, and you know, at the stage of statutory consultation, it will host a survey as a method of collecting your comments. We'll also host notices of the traffic orders and, as I mentioned, project updates. Thank you. I think I'm passing back to Carlo now to cover next steps. Carlo, you're on mute.
Okay. Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
The key next steps are outlined on this slide, and some are subject to funding discussions with the funding provider. If funding is provided, then we would like to undertake analysis of engagement, and that's going to be sort of around February 2023, as discussed by Liz. Develop feasibility designs around sort of February, March time in 2023. Then hopefully develop some concept design in April, May, but that's going to be subject to funding into the next financial year. And then beyond that, we would look to sort of develop on the detailed designs in the summer of 2023. Again, that's going to be subject to funding for next financial year. And then finally, commence construction in the winter of 2023, spring 2024, and again, subject to next year's funding. So that's the next steps outlined. And then on behalf of the Journeys and Places team at Enfield Borough, I'd like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank you for listening in into this presentation about the Enfield Town to Ponders End Station walking and cycling route. We are very excited about all the benefits that this project could have in our community, from increasing the active travel opportunities to providing safe junctions and crossings for all users. I will now hand over back to Richard Eason to facilitate the Q&A session.
That's great. Thank you guys for going through and covering that. Okay, so we're going to just have a look through the questions, and if you've got some, then please do fire those in now, and we can spend a few minutes covering off those. The first one that I can see is about how the route also seems to include some bus routes as well, and I think the question is around the approach that we'll be taking at bus stops. So I'll just mention something on this and then perhaps add to Carla, but it might be that I've covered it, because I think there's some, I've noticed when I was looking at just some of the comments as well, there's perhaps some some uncertainty around what type of route that we'd be doing in what area. So I think on the map that Carla showed today, we're at the very early stages, and it's likely that along some of those roads, it's not that we're installing a physical cycle lane, it's that it would be a signposted route, and where we think that we can calm the traffic sufficiently and reduce the volume is not too much, that people would be people cycling would be sharing the road with other users. So it might not be the case that at every bus stop you'd have something similar to what we might have used on other routes, where the roads are busier. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Carla, do you want to give me a nod or a shake, or whether you want to add anything to that one? I think that's a shake.
I need to add more. Yeah, I think I need to add more.
That's fine. The next one, Carla, is if you want to take this, is about funding. I know we've said a few things are subject to funding, but there's just a question around where the funding's coming from.
Yeah, sure. The project is currently funded by TfL up to the end of the financial year, so that's up to the end of March this year. Funded beyond that point is unknown. We might find out at the beginning of April, or it might be a little bit later. So at the moment, we're funded to the end of the financial year, and it's all coming through from TfL. Okay.
Thanks for that, Carla. I think what I'd add as well to that is that if we can have earlier conversations with the community, and they can help shape the development of these early designs, and that puts us in a good position going forward if we want to try and attract more funding for delivery. But yes, Transport for London funding the work to date. Let me just have a look through some of these other questions. There's some questions about the park, and questions around access at night / that's a dark environment, when it's not in hours of daylight. Carla, can you just talk a little bit about what approach we might take there?
Yes, sure, of course. So as I say, we've only just started looking at a possible route through the park, and as part of that and those early discussions is that we would be seeking to put street lighting in there. We appreciate that these parks are dark at night, and so yeah, absolutely. The intention is that we would have the main cycle and pedestrian path both illuminated, probably from the centre point, illuminating both evenly, but that would be the intention. And we probably will enter into discussions with the parks to see whether the opening hours can be extended potentially as well.
Okay, that's great, thank you. We've then got some sort of related questions. So questions around whether we'd be looking at other sort of broader traffic calming reduction measures along some of the route. I think there's some comments that some of these routes will see quite a lot of traffic, and whether there is sort of related but a separate question, using other measures, such as camera filters or bollards and things to reduce that through traffic. So I don't know whether you can just touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, a case in point's probably sort of the sort of residential roads off Southbury Road. Those roads probably do suffer from an element of rat running off Southbury, and so we would be looking to, as you say, Richard, probably sort of implement a number of camera points, modal filter points, one-ways, to look to stem some of that traffic that peels off Southbury Road to make its way onto Lincoln Road and avoid some of the major junctions. So yes, we would be seeking to do that, and that hopefully will just support our measures to keep those flows on those residential roads quite low and make those those cycle routes pleasant if they're only just going to be signed, so that the flows are low to support that.
Okay, great. And got some questions around some more questions about lighting, which I think we've covered. So we won't go over those again. People can look back at that later. But there's some questions around concerns over, how much greenery we might take, for example, through Bush Hill Park. I think if we've got plans to extend the width of that, then that would, potentially take some additional greenery away. I don't know whether you've got anything to say on that, Carl.
Yeah, I think the image that I did bring up, and I might try and go back to that one very quickly. It sort of shows in the image how, although the path would be wider, it is segregated by this band of vegetation, which is going to be low level, and then we've got the lighting, as you see at Angel Walk, which is illuminated in the centre part. So yes, although there is some greening that we might lose because of the width of the path, we will intensify it with the additional planting that we would get. And that's also supported by along the route as well. So as well as in the park, we would obviously look to support that with additional planting along the route, as I alluded to, with rain gardens, etc.
Okay, that's great. Okay, well, hopefully that's reassuring. I think, potentially, as you can see in that image, there might be potential to sort of increase the general biodiversity of planting. I think this is some of the question, concern was around, impacts on the wildlife and things as well. So I think that's something that we need to consider carefully as we move forward.
I think, yeah. So just to add to that, I think we are meeting with the arboriculturists just to make sure that the position in relation to the trees, etc., doesn't impact any of that that's actually within the tree lines. So we are in those sort of early discussions.
Okay, that's great. And likewise, no doubt we'll be having early discussions with the Friends of Bush Hill Park as well. I'm sure that they'll have views on how that unfolds. I think we may have had some conversations some time ago, but I would just add, actually, this project has seen some stop starting as a result of the funding challenges that we've had through the pandemic. So it's good that we're now back here having these conversations. So I would encourage people as well, where they feel that there's other traffic issues in the surrounding area. The map enables you to put pins in different places, on different roads. So if you feel that there's issues on some of those surrounding roads that if it might not be off the route, then please, it'd be really helpful for us to sort of hear about those. There is a question about car parking, Carlo, and an impact on that. I think hopefully some of the stuff I said earlier about the route just following the roads in a number of locations helps alleviate some concerns about that. But I guess is the potential for some impact on parking at different points. Do you want to just talk a little about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, yes, you're absolutely right. I think where we're going to send the cycle route through more residential roads, then I think we would say that if the flows are low enough, we wouldn't have to potentially look at the impact on those. But certainly where we might be looking to go along, let's say Lincoln Road, to the east of the A10, that's a much busier road. We might look to see whether we can't sort of, as the map sort of showed, provide maybe some sort of two-way cycle facility, which may mean having to lose some parking on one side of the road. But those are the sort of scenarios where we might look, or where we try to squeeze a cycle lane in, then we have to look at the overall finished width of the road to see what's left. But yes, I mean, I don't see that it's going to be swathes a bit, but there'll be pockets of parking that might be impacted.
And thanks, Carlo. Linked to that, we've got another question around concerns around people parking on junctions and things, and the sort of safety concerns of that. So potentially, I guess, there's an opportunity as well to sort of look at that as part of the project as well. Absolutely.
Intervisibility would definitely be looked at lots of these residential junctions where parking too close to the junction makes an issue. And although it's difficult for car drivers, it's also important that the visibility to cyclists is also good and clear. So yes, we'd be looking at any of those that are being suggested. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's great. Thank you. We're having a few questions. I think I can actually see that we've had some people join us later in the session. So there's a question about whether this will be presented, posted online, which we've explained at the beginning it will be. So if you've missed bits or there's questions that we're not addressing because we've already spoken through them, then you'll be able to go back and see those online in a few days' time. Again, I think quite a few more points coming through about concerns about displacement, if you like, from measures that we do on this route, then displacement on local roads such as Clive Road, sort of mentioned, for example, and I think we've talked about how we're keen to hear about those issues on those surrounding roads, and that we're looking at the area as a whole in terms of understanding the flow, and so we'll be taking that sort of broader look. We do have a question about the A10 junction itself, Carla. This route potentially crosses the A10, and whether we'll be doing anything there. Are you able to talk to that briefly?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very complex junction. It's actually looked after by TfL, so anything that we do at that junction would need to have quite a heavy involvement with TfL to make sure that they sign off any changes to the junction itself. But yes, I mean, I think some initial thoughts would be to possibly look at the phasing and amend that so that we can adopt sort of a straight across cycle facility. So where we got the staggered cycle, the pedestrian facility, we'd actually run maybe something like a straight across cycle facility, so they cross the road in one go. But that needs careful thinking and looking at with TfL and how we would actually manage that and not impact the A10 too significantly. But that I think can be accommodated.
Okay, that's great. Linked to that a little bit, I think some questions really, which maybe I'll take initially, but about the alignment of the route. And I think some people that be looking or would prefer to see a route along Southbury Road entirely, connecting through to sort of Ponders End that way. So that is something that we have looked at in the past. I think when we did look at that previously, quite some time ago, we did identify as part of that early feasibility work then that there'd be quite a lot of challenges along that route. It's quite a narrow route in places, and we felt that actually, as well as removing a significant amount of car parking, we'd actually still struggle with width for decent quality cycleway widths, and the potential impact then on bus journey times as well along that route. Carlos talked about the A10 junction further down and that being a complicated junction, and it is quite a bit less complicated than the junction further north there where the cinema is, which any route along Southbury Road would also need to pass through. So I think some questions or thoughts around the directness of this alternative route. It is intended to be as an alternative alignment. We still feel it has good connections, and Carlos talked about some of those, and that if it's well signed, it could become a really good east-west connection. But acknowledging, yes, it's not directly along Southbury Road. I think we don't have too many questions left. Let me just have a little look. One may be coming through. I'm just having a look through. Oh, I don't think we've. Oh, there's a question about. Hold on, maybe more than one. So the question around maintenance. Where we do introduce more greenery, that's done very much in collaboration with our in-house maintenance team, who then look after those facilities where we work on a basis where when we install them, we have them under some sort of guarantee initially with an aftercare program, and then our in-house team take over those. There's lots of involvement from the in-house team in terms of the nature of the planting, to make sure that we come forward with schemes that are that don't need a lot of maintenance, so that they can be managed in that way. I think the final question I think we've got is one about whether people will be able to get involved again in the future, and whether people will be able to comment on the design. So we're really clear that at the moment we're just setting out an intent, if you like, and a sort of an alignment that we think might work. And the whole point of this process here is to gather your thoughts and views that can help shape then the development of those designs. And absolutely, then once we've pulled something together that can have more specific comment and critique, then there'll be a further opportunity to do that. And then, depending on as the project rolls forward, there'd be and also a period of sort of statutory consultation that would follow further down the line. So this is not the only opportunity. This is just the start of the project, and we really want to hear your voices to help shape things as we move forward. So in terms of being informed about that, the project page is the key place for information, and I guess, Liz, if we've got more designs and things to share, we would could you just cover off how we might sort of communicate those?
Yeah, absolutely. Any period of, say, for example, statutory consultation or future engagement opportunities, we will deliver letters to residents who live or and business owners along the route. So that's one of our key ways that we communicate with residents. But as Richard mentioned, we'll be posting updates on the project page, and that really is kind of the most up-to-date place that you can get information, I suppose.
Okay, great. I think there's a last question about the A10 junction there. I think Carlo covered that off, and that's really about working collaboratively with Transport for London, who own the A10, and making sure that any designs there marry up with each other. And we've already been having some very early conversations with them about that, but there's much more work to be done there. Okay, I think that's concluded most of the questions. Please do get in touch with us via the project page, or email the team if you've got sort of follow-up questions, and we'll look to update the project page with that FAQ in due course, and we'll also upload this webinar to that project page as well. So a final plea and a thank you to all those who've already added comments. If you've already added comments and this webinar has prompted some more issues or ideas, then please do place them on the map. That's really valuable to us as we move forward with some early thoughts on what this design of this route might look like. Hope everyone's staying warm, and thank you very much for joining us, and we'll end the webinar there. Okay, good night.